It's Wednesday, it's time for the Word of the Week, and here we have another Word of the Week that has different meanings based on the context in which it's used. The word is the same, but the meaning has to be sort of nuanced based on the context. And thanks again to friend of the channel, Steve, for leading us to this subject. So our Word of the Week this week is cosmos, and it means world, universe, or world order. We're going to look at a few quick examples, and we'll talk about the difference in their meanings after we look at them. First up, Hebrews chapter 4, verse 3. All of our examples today are from the ESV with the Koine supplied. For we who have believed enter that rest, as he has said, as I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest, although his works were finished from the foundations of the world. Apokataboles kosmou, from the foundations of the world. First off, the word foundations is fantastic. Kataboles, that which was cast down. You don't build until you first cast down a foundation, right? So here, the phrase from the foundations of the world is talking about the act of creation. If we read this in context in Hebrews chapter 4, it clearly refers back to the creation week. So the act of creation is the foundation of the world, not just the planet Earth, but of all creation in that context. Next up, 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 9. For I think that God has exhibited us apostles as last of all, like men sentenced to death, because we have become a spectacle to the world, tokosmu, to angels and to men. So notice, after he says our word of the week, tokosmu, to the world, he modifies it by giving us the words to angels and to men. Why? Because he's not talking about the dirt of the world. He's not talking about rivers and streams and mountains. He's talking about intelligent creatures, not a spectacle to ducks, but to angels and to men, right? So here, the world is a stand-in for the notion of the intelligent creatures that exist in creation. Next up, Mark chapter 16, verse 15. And he said to them, go into all the world, eis ton kosmon apanta, all the world, and proclaim the gospel to the whole creation. So a stand-in here for the populated world, right? The proclamation of the gospel is only going to where it's heard or where it can be heard. So it's not spatial, it's not talking about geography, it's talking about where people can hear the proclamation of the gospel, where there is an audience. Next up, Matthew chapter 18, verse 7. Woe to the world, uiai tokosmo, for temptations to sin. For it is necessary that temptations come, but woe to the one by whom the temptation comes. So here, the world is being used sort of as a stand-in for some people, not for all people, but for some people, for people who would bring temptation to others. There's sort of a spirit in the world that drives temptation. Next up, we're going to look at two verses from 1 Corinthians. First up, chapter 3, verse 19. For the wisdom of this world, to kosmu tutu, to kosmu, of the world, tutu, this, of this world, is folly with God. For it is written, he catches the wise in their craftiness. Let's look at chapter 5, verses 9 and 10. I wrote to you in my letter not to associate with sexually immoral people, not at all meaning the sexually immoral of this world. Tu kosmu tutu sounds familiar, doesn't it, from the previous verse? Or the greedy and swindlers or idolaters, since then you would need to go out of the world, ek tu kosmu, out of or from the world. So sometimes the world refers to a system or a spirit that is opposed to God. right? The spirit of this world. He says a fantastic thing in chapter 5 there. He says, when I warned you about the sexually immoral, I wasn't talking about the outsiders. I was talking about those in the church, because there are people in the church who are representative of the spirit of the world, have the same sort of opposed to God mindset and stance and moral condition as if they weren't in the church at all. So sometimes the world, cosmos, our word of the week, is representative of a spirit that is in opposition to holiness, righteousness, God, and the things of God. So there we have it, cosmos, world, world order, world view, universe, creation. It depends on how it's being used, and we have to read into the context to look for the nuance of what is being said by our word of the week, which is what? Cosmos, world, universe, creation, worldview. Thanks again, Steve, for leading us down this road. We'll look at another one next Wednesday. And until next time, leave me some feedback in the comments, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And Charis Kai Irene Humin, grace and peace to you.